Hello, this is a review of the Coolmaster 200mm case fan. Now, I'm really happy with the case fan. It's the perfect fit for the Coolmaster Storm Enforcer case that I have. It is an exact match for the 200mm case fan that comes pre-installed on the front of my case. But I was rather shocked the first time I received this and saw how darn big this was. Again, it's the perfect size for this, but I was really surprised at how big this thing was. I was expecting a fan that looks more like this. This is a 120mm case fan that comes pre-installed as the exhaust fan on this Coolmaster Storm Enforcer case. But when I received this, I was thinking, wow, this thing is big. But when you look, it is the exact right size to fit the big vent that comes on this case here. And now with a bigger fan, it doesn't have to spin as fast. It can have lower RPMs and be quieter because it doesn't have to turn as many times to get as much airflow. So this fan here on the back has to work harder than this fan here. This can spin fewer times and therefore be more quiet. Now the red LED light I don't find to be intrusive. I couldn't find one that didn't light up, so I just accepted it figuring, hey, it's the same as the front of the case. I can show you in the separate video of what it looks like with the LED light turned on. Now, other than the size being a surprise and then turning out to be the perfect fit, there was a few other things to note. Number one is, at first, I didn't know which way to install it. So obviously you can put the fan here or flip it over and put it the other way. And basically you want to be exhausting air. You don't want to be pushing air down in here. You want the processor to be able to push air in and just throw it out of the case. You want air to come in the front and go out here and out here. You don't want to be pushing air in here as well. So I didn't know which way to put it in until I found the arrows. So basically there's some arrows here. So do you see the arrows? This shows you which direction is exhaust and which way the blades will turn. And basically, you have these screws here, and they'll be able to be installed on either side, depending on which way, if you flip the fan or not. So you'll want to pay attention to where those arrows are so that you install it in the correct direction on your case. The other thing is the power cable length. So you can just barely see it on mine here through the translucent plastic. You see the wires in the back here? So it is long enough to connect from here to the motherboard to the auxiliary fan port down here. So this is where my auxiliary fan port is. Now it is long enough, but the thing is, it has to cut all the way across the case. So it was long enough for me to stretch it all the way down and plug it in down here with a little room to spare. Like, it wasn't overly tight. It could make that distance. However, I didn't want to run it all the way down the front of my board, especially with all the other cable management that I've done inside my case. So I wanted to run it down the back side. So that's how you do cable management, as you'll see separately in my case review for the Coolmaster Storm Enforcer. But basically, I wanted to take that wire, and you can barely see it. It tucks right around along with those other 3 color wires. The white cable is this one here, and it runs behind there, and then it disappears, and it literally went out the hole. As we can see the last sign of it right there as it turns to the left. And running it down the back, that little extra wrapping wasn't long enough to come back out the front. So with cable management, you see this hole down here? This is where it'll come back out and then need to connect over here. But there's a really easy solution to that. Basically, you just get a 3-wire fan extension cable. And I was able to find one quite cheap. And so on the back side of the case, that wire goes and just connects with a little connector and then connects via the extension cable over to here. On the back side of the case, we can see what I did here. So you see where the wire comes out on the back side, runs down, and basically it comes around right here, and right here is where I connect it to the extension cable, which then continues from here. So just a 3-wire fan extension cable. It was a pretty cheap extension cable, and it works just fine. So it wasn't long enough for me to run it with cable management down the back. It would have been long enough for me to just literally run it across the front of the motherboard, but a cheap little extension cable was plenty fine for me to connect it just up. And this is the auxiliary fan now installed. You'll be able to see it in the top. You'll see that the LED light isn't overwhelming to the room. It's a little bit more noticeable in the top position due to the open vent on the top compared to the rack in the front. It's an identical 200 millimeter fan that was back there. So I'm really happy with it. The LED light is something I wish I could turn off because you can't turn off the LED lights, but I think it's the perfect fit for the Cool Master case.